His son is a felon who's been living in my house after I left. His sister, it got her baby taken away from her because she's postpartum. His father is a registered sex offender because of what he's done. So the whole family, I'm very scared for what they'll do to my family, the church. He's a pastor.
Okay.
And especially me and my life.
What's his name, honey?
His name
What's his date of birth?
is
and how old is he?
He is 44 and a half.
Okay, what is it threatening any structure?
He's 6'2", male, brown hair, brown eyes. His son is identical to him, but he's like 5'2", so please don't arrest the wrong person. But he's 6'2".
Is there any children at that house, honey?
They should be at school right now. And he works remotely because he's a pastor, so he's either at my house or he fled to his son's house in Conway, but either way, we need to find him because his son has guns, his son is a felon.
Okay, fire department's being sent down the line, and I'll tell you exactly what to do next. Do not try to put the fire out.
All right, honey, what kind of car will you be in at Azalea Lake?
Blue Ford Expedition.
And I can be in the first turn. So when you first come into Cascades and Azalea Lake's entrance, the very first turn, there's like a dirt patch before you get to the neighborhood where it's like a cul-de-sac dirt patch, and it's before you even enter the Cascades neighborhood. It's very obvious on the right.
Okay.
That way we don't even have to technically enter the neighborhood. We can be right on the outskirts.
If anyone else sits over here, like I'll tell Diana.
Okay, honey. And it's 246 Coldwater Circle, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
If I hit that,
You need to take a right.
right, it'll be up on the left.
Yeah, it'll be up on the left, and you'll see the dirt patch where I talked about. Where there's when you first get in the neighborhood, immediately on the right, there is a dirt patch.
Mica sounds like a fighter. She's ready to fight. She's had enough.
And his son, who's a felon, was following me around town in his coastal painting, his business he owns. His truck is decked out. He even rolled the window down because I rolled the window down, and he was following me.
Okay.
And his son, like I said, has had 3 domestic violence arrests in the last 3 months. His ex-wife currently has had his children taken away, and they're getting a divorce. The sister is going through a divorce. She lives in the home. She's postpartum and very dangerous to her baby. That's why she can't have her baby.
So you guys here, and they're going to say goodbye. Mike goes to the scene to meet with the officer, file report. Now, there's some things that I want to point out here that are extremely important. Now that we're looking back in retrospect, with all the information we have, with John Paul talking too much, okay? Let's go back to a couple of things. Listen to this part.
Okay, and when he put his hands on you?
Yeah, he tried to throat punch me, but thankfully I was standing up, so he made contact, but it didn't knock the wind out of me like it should have. And he pushed me down in front of thousands of people at Disney World, and so, yeah, and his best friend even saw that happen. He slapped drinks right out of my hand.
All right, listen to it one more time. The Disney World part. Listen.
Okay, and when he put his hands on you?
Yeah, he tried to throat punch me, but thankfully I was standing up, so he made contact, but it didn't knock the wind out of me like it should have.
He put his
And
hands
he's
right.
pushed me down in front of thousands of people at Disney World. And so, yeah, and his best friend even saw that happen. He
When did
slapped
he
drinks
put-
right out of my hand.
All right. So, push me down at Disney World, slap drinks out of my hand. Now, I'm going to show you a clip from John Paul Miller. Just a couple of weeks after Mica's death, John Paul Miller does this interview. Nobody knows about physical abuse. Nobody knows about Disney World. Nobody knows about any of this. The case is new. It's fresh. We're just getting information. This is from John Paul Miller. Listen.
Oh, the question is, did I ever hit or harm Mica? So not once, ever, ever, ever in any way was she harmed by me or hit by me. Ever, 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 ever. One time in Disneyland, I think I knocked a drink that she was holding off, but that's the closest we ever come. Now, when she's off her meds, she's knocked the crap out of me a few times.
Now y'all hear that? Listen again. Nobody knows about Disney World. They've been married 7 years, and when he's asked if he ever abused Mica, he says, never. I think one time I knocked a drink out of her hand at Disney World. As if it was an accident. That's like me saying, my wife and I were walking in Disney World. We ran into each other because we were looking opposite directions. Why would you ever bring this up?
The question is, did I ever hit or harm Mica? So not once, ever, ever, ever in any way was she harmed by me or hit by me. Ever, 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 ever. One time in Disneyland, I think I knocked a drink that she was holding off, but that's the closest we ever come. Now, when she's off her meds, she's knocked the crap out of me a few times. Chipped my tooth, busted my nose.
Let me rephrase. When she's defending herself.
Hit me so hard in my ear, it rang for 6 hours and I lost hearing. But that's when she's off meds. That's when, and you just take care. It's like an autistic child. When someone you love can't control themselves, you don't really know what to do. Do you hug them really hard and prevent them from moving their hands? Do you run in the other room? For me, I would just kind of run away. You know, I'd leave the house or I'd go lock myself in a room and try to talk her into understanding what's going on and who I am.
But if she runs away, if she leaves the house, if she tries to get away from you, you freak out. And you involve other people in your business, and you send mass text messages complaining that she's ran away to have some space. Okay, so there we go. We got John Paul admitting to an incident in Disney World. We got Mica admitting to an incident of physical abuse allegedly at Disney World. Now, next, take a listen.
He's on an antipsychotic medicine that he's misusing, and I even got off the phone with the pharmacy. He didn't pick up his latest prescription, which he should have on January 3rd. And I believe at this point, based on the people that he's come in contact with, some of them reported to me that based on how he was talking, they feared he had killed and buried me somewhere.
Okay. We know the feared killed and buried me somewhere, but here's Mica telling the world, hey, he's misusing drugs. Now remember, Angela Clark testifies that he's going to a friend's house to get prescription drugs to give to Mica. We've got medical reports that say that they are misusing drugs together, sharing drugs. I don't believe it's Mica sharing. I think it's Mica just taking whatever JP gives her. And now let's listen to John Paul.
One of the videos that has surfaced recently is from years ago. And I'm sure you know what it is. It's you're sitting face down on the ground and you're freaking out and you're talking about, you're literally squealing about being eaten by ants. Taking the wrong meds, that you missed your family.
Is your medication something they gave you?
I mean, for viewers, for people watching it, the common thought is, what is going on here, and do you have a drug problem?
So I fell out of a tree, a giant magnolia tree. It was like 300 years old. I broke 12 bones. It was 10 to 12 bones. I don't know if you count fingers. Yeah, it is count fingers. Anyway, I have all this metal in my body, and I'd never taken pain meds in my life, and I just had my body cast taken off.
Not true. Never in a body cast. Not once. Ever. Not once. Lie. Complete lie. Never in a body cast.
And so I took a little bit too much pain meds that day.
That's
So,
it.
that's
Just
it.
what?
That's not-
Percocet?
I don't remember any of them. It was 2017, 16, 2016, 2016, and it was like 10 years ago, 8 years ago, whatever. And I was missing my family. My wife, Mica, and I, we started through an affair, and so we were both married to people, and then we got divorced, and I was missing my family because I'd lost my family at the time, and I was on pain meds, and it just all went together. But fell out of a tree, broke a bunch of bones, took too many pain meds. That was that story.
Not hallucinogenics.
What would hallucinogenic be?
Make you
And this is a
hallucinate.
lie.
Well, what makes you hallucinate?
Drugs.
Like illegal drugs?
Hallucinogenic drugs, yeah.
Oh, I've never done a legal drug my whole life.
Okay.
Lie.
Oh, crap, that was a lie. I'm sorry, that was a lie. When I was 16 years old, one time I was in a truck with two of my friends, and they were both smoking pot. I didn't smoke any, but they do a thing called hot box, and so I got some of that. And I tried steroids.
Okay,
one
so
time.
now we've got Mica saying that he's misusing drugs. We've got witnesses saying that he's misused drugs. And now we've got John Paul admitting he misused drugs after falling out of a tree and getting his body cast off. Again, my theory is I don't think he fell out of a tree. I think someone beat his tail. That's my opinion. And I've been told that we may know who that person is. I would love for that person to come forward. I don't know. Did he fall out of a tree? Maybe. We'll see. I think someone beat his tail. So we've got Mica saying misuse of drugs. We've got witnesses saying misuse of drugs. We've got medical documents provided by John Paul saying misuse of drugs. And now we've got John Paul admitting to misuse of drugs. Now, let's keep going.
He has possession of her car, her purse, all her valuables.
Guns that were bought in my name that I fear he's going to use and then say it was in my name.
Okay. Now we're getting into, we can hear the fear Mica had.
He has possession of her car, her purse, all her valuables.
Guns that were bought in my name that I fear he's going to use and then say it was in my name.
Mica suggesting that she's going to be set up.
He has possession of her car, her purse, all her valuables.
Guns that were bought in my name that I fear he's going to use and then say it was in my name.
I reported earlier this week that John Paul Miller allegedly brought Mica a weapon just weeks before her death, challenging her to take her life. And now here's Mica suggesting that she may be set up. I reported earlier this week that she told multiple friends that he is going to kill her and frame it as a suicide, stage it as a suicide. And here is Mica, in her own words, saying he's going to use a gun that are in my name. Guns that are in my name. Let's keep listening. Here, how good was Mica with weapons? Take a look at this text message. 100 text message from Mica Miller. Got a 100 on my CWP test. I believe Mica bought that weapon for self-defense. A good weapon, an expensive weapon. I think she was ready to fight. Speaking of which.
And his son is a felon who's been living in my house after I left. His sister, it got her baby taken away from her because she's postpartum. His father is a registered sex offender because of what he's done. So the whole family, I'm very scared for what they'll do to my family, the church. He's a pastor.
Okay.
And especially me and my life.
What's his name, honey?
His name.
So you can sit there and believe my reporting all you want. You can sit there and believe or not believe what I have to say according to witnesses and what Mica told witnesses. You can sit there and say, Robbie, that's just hearsay. Okay, fine, so be it. I've told you over and over again that Mica feared for her life. I've told you over and over again that she told multiple people that she was scared for her life. She told multiple people she wanted to live. And now here she is, her very own words. I'm in fear of his whole family, and I'm fearful for my life.
And his son is a felon who's been living in my house after I left. His sister, it got her baby taken away from her because she's postpartum. His father is a registered sex offender because of what he's done. So the whole family, I'm very scared for what they'll do to my family, the church. He's a pastor.
Listen.
Okay.
And especially me and my life.
What's his name, honey?
His name.
Let's keep listening. Remember, Andy, the neighbor, swears he saw John Paul Miller the day Mica died at his house in their neighborhood. He swears he won't come off of it. I've told Andy there's witnesses that have him in Charleston that day for a soccer tournament. There's witnesses that have him out of town. There's police that have him out of town. Andy won't come off of it. He won't say. He says, no, I don't care what those people say. I saw him in this neighborhood. I saw him in his truck.
And his son, who's a felon, was following me around town in his coastal painting, his business he owns. His truck is decked out. He even rolled the window down because I rolled the window down, and he was following me.
Okay.
And his son, like I said, has had 3 domestic violence arrests in the last 3 months.
They are identical. And go back and listen to the whole 911 call. Mica even tells this dispatcher, when you get there, don't arrest the wrong person. The person I want you to arrest, because they look exactly the same, is 6'2". His son is 5'2". Don't arrest the wrong person. They look exactly the same. Both can be true. So we got witnesses that got John Paul out of town. We got witnesses that put John Paul in town. And we got 2 people that look identical. And in a tinted window truck, I'm sure it's easy to confuse who's who. We've got Mica saying I'm in fear of my life. We've got Mica saying I'm afraid he's going to use guns that are in my name, suggesting that she may be set up. We got Mica saying that he's misusing drugs, that he's the one psychotic. We've got John Paul admitting he misused drugs. We got witnesses saying that they witnessed the misuse of drugs. We got medical documents that say the misuse of drugs. We got John Paul admitting to an event at Disney World before anybody had a clue of what he was talking about. Mica is speaking from the grave. Got a tip last week about a new ministry called Mercy Church Ministries. And I was like, come on. We really doing this again? Didn't have much to go off of. Just had the name. So we found some information. And as you see here, we've gone over this. I got a reset for everybody. So we find information and we find this. We find a Molly Fleming and an address that doesn't exist. Listen, first of all, let me say this. Everybody Y'all do so. I love my followers because what we're going to find tonight is because of you guys, the followers. I know the wrong address. Okay. We know. And there's actually, oh man, I meant to show y'all something, but I'll show it to y'all a different day. The wrong address, we know what probably is the right address. And we know who's in that address. And we know who's living at that, okay? We know. So, we have a wrong address here. We have what seems to be a fake name, okay? But if you keep digging, and, you find more. There it is. Mercy Church Ministries, $155,000. So we've got that. We've got the deed here. Interesting. Okay. Find out where it's located. This is on the bypass, right around the corner from the property that Solid Rock Church owns. So that parcel down at the bottom, that rectangle of a parcel down at the bottom, is owned by Solid Rock Church. By the way, last time I checked, that ministry has not dissolved. It's still active. Living Water Church has not dissolved. It's still active. And now we have this ministry. Okay? Just keep listening. It's going to get fun. It's going to be fun. I'm in a good mood tonight. I'm having just good vibes. I'm in a happy mood. I feel like we're close. I feel like we're just close. And then I get nonsense, just like where you get crazy information and you read it and you say, that's not true. And then you're like, it is true. We just keep going. All right. Sorry. All right. So that's the land. That's where the new location is. You take a look inside. Well, looks like they're spending maybe some of that money to remodel it. So then, as soon as I reveal this, I get a text message. Hey, John Paul's mom maiden name is Susan Fleming. You go back to the original file. Oh, sorry about that right there. You can see Molly Fleming. So now we've got a match. We've got a Fleming connecting John Paul Miller to his mama. Now, y'all know the folks at True Sunlight Podcasts. They have done a phenomenal job at covering this story. This story is so big, guys. It is impossible for me to share everything. So when you're done with this show, I want you to download True Sunlight Podcasts. Listen to their latest episode. They're going to dive deeper into Mercy Ministries. And they've got some other things to share about this case. It's impossible for me to share with you everything. It's impossible. It'll never happen. So go to True Sunlight. Go to Fitz News. Everyone is doing a phenomenal job. They're doing a great job. So I get wind that they do a podcast on Mercy Church. Listen to this clip.
On Tuesday, YouTuber Robbie Harvey reported on a new entity that he says has ties to J.P. Miller, and I wanted to independently verify that information. The entity is called Mercy Church Ministries, Inc., and it was registered with the state on November 18th. The registered agent is Molly Fleming, spelled Mollie. This will be important in a few minutes. The address is 172 Machine Loop, Unit C in Myrtle Beach. First off, this address doesn't exist. I cannot find record of any road called Machine Loop in Myrtle Beach. The Register of Deeds office doesn't have a record of Machine Loop. The online database for land records doesn't have a record of Machine Loop. The filing with the Secretary of State indicates that the entity is intending to obtain 501c3 status, and it also lists the directors of the nonprofit corporation. They are Molly Fleming, Mona Amorisi, and Mary Jo Grinninger. Let's set Molly aside for a moment. Mona Amorisi was the counselor at Faith First Academy, the school attached to Solid Rock Church. Faith First Academy's website is gone now, but it was captured in the Internet Archives last December. Mona is described as a, quote, prayer partner, spirit-filled woman of counsel going to Bible college for a degree in Christian counseling. Offer to any students or parents for $25 per hour, after school and Fridays, end quote.
Nice.
And it lists her email as mona@faithfirstacademy.org. As for Mary Jo Grinninger, well, that's Trisha Ross's mother. But who is Molly Fleming? A source reminded me that JP's mother's maiden name was Susan Fleming. A newspaper clipping announcing Susan's engagement to Wayne Miller in 1974 told me that Susan's parents were Mr. and Mrs. M.H. Fleming. Findagrave.com identified her father as Monroe Herbert Fleming, who passed away in 2012. His obituary reads in part, surviving is his wife of 65 years, Molly Usher Fleming. This Molly is spelled Molly, and I can't find an obituary for her anywhere. According to the image of Mr. Fleming's gravestone at Find a Grave, Molly was born in April of 1929, making her 95 years old and JP's only remaining grandparent. Put a pin in that one and remember that for later.
Okay, you got to remember it for later because you got to go listen to the show. Okay, so here's... all right. So here's the family tree according to Ancestry.com. This is what it looks like. You can see Mica there. You can see John Paul married to Mica. There's the family. Okay. I cannot believe this is nonsense. I cannot believe it. It's going to get better. Now, read this. This is the filing. Each original director of the nonprofit corporation must sign the articles, but only if the directors are named in these articles. So Molly Fleming, it says she's electronically signed. She's 95. She's in a nursing home. Congratulations, Molly. You are the new, well, who are you? What are you listed as? You're the director. Congratulations, Molly. You are the start of Mercy Church Ministries. God bless you. I'm so excited to see your work and what you have planned for the future of Myrtle Beach. Now, Mona, thank you for signing. Mary Jo, which, by the way, I want to point something out. These are spelled wrong. Molly, Mollie. That's not how she spells her name. It's Molly. Mary Jo. It is not spelled Joe. It is Jo. So many of you are saying, well, it's a mistype. It's mistyped in there, blah, blah, blah. Garbage. The wrong address is entered in this document multiple times. Not once. Okay? This is on purpose. And if Molly and Mona and Mary Jo did not sign these documents, that is forgery. A crime. And some of you commenting on my Facebook page, why can't y'all just let them be, let them build a church? Because of this. And let me say this. There's other players involved in this church. And I know all about it. I know all about it. But this, if Molly, first of all, we can't find a Molly Fleming spelled that way. We're going to assume that it's Molly, the grandmother of John Paul. If they did not sign these documents, you cannot tell me Molly Fleming, 95 years old, in a nursing home, has an idea of what she is signing. Who is her power of attorney? I don't know, all that stuff. You cannot convince me that she knew what she was signing here, if she signed it. Molly Fleming. Now, one more thing. And I got a feeling this is going to be a short live tonight. I don't know. Y'all forgive me if it is. I'm kind of getting through this fairly quicker than I thought. Yeah. I'm in a great mood. It really is. You can feel Christmas around the corner. I'm having reactionary responses. It's great. It's just really good times. There's sarcasm in all this, if y'all don't know. Okay. So, you see this. April 28th, and this is the serious part. The day after Mica dies. April 28th. John Paul Miller hasn't seen his wife's body. He's given out details of the crime scene to several people. And he's preaching. And he plays this clip.
This family went from no reputation, no respect. Watch this. One generation later, let me say it this way, one choice later, and now they have incredible honor and incredible integrity. Paul told Timothy in 2 Timothy 1:5, the faith and wisdom I see in you, Timothy, I love you, I'm proud of you. It didn't start with you, buddy. No. It started with your grandmother, and then it went to your mother, and now it lives in you. He was saying, you are where you are because your grandma prayed for you every day. Anybody can say that about there? You are where you are because your mom drug your butt to church every Sunday. That's why you are where you are. You know, I told you my nana, I had four grandparents, of course, nana, papa, grandma, granddad. My nana is my last. I'm 44 years old and she's still alive. We have actually 5 generations alive on earth right now. And she's the one that would make me go and preach to her out at the amphitheater when I was 10, 11 years old in Darlington. And she'd let me take up an offering, which was always special. She didn't have much, but I took it. But I also remember the other day that when I was, I think it was 11 or 12, I wanted to take a homiletics class. Homiletics is like a public speaking for preachers. And so I went to the Bible college, and my nana would pick me up and go with me, so I could learn how to preach. She actually took the class with me, and she would get up there and preach and write sermons, and, you know, we'd help each other out. At 11 years old, she did that. She's 96 years old, and she's still speaking faith into me. Let me play this for you.
John Paul, this is Donna. Just wanted to give you a call and tell you, don't you ever give up preaching unless God wants you to. Don't listen to all these mouths that try to come against you. Just trust God for your life and your preaching, because you're too good to ever give it up. From what I could hear, you are absolutely wonderful. I just wish I could hear you too, my darling. God loves you. You just trust Him with whatever is going on. Don't let the devil take anything from you, honey. Stand your ground. Love you. Bye-bye.
Listen. She's 96. She lives in a nursing home. She can't even get out of bed. But she calls me every week and leaves voice messages just like that. Do you know how she's going to be remembered? She's going to be remembered as someone who poured faith into other people. When she leaves this earth, it's not just going to be, okay, goodbye. It's going to be, no, I'm here because of her. I'm still going because of her.
She can't even get out of bed. And now she's a director of Mercy Church Ministries. Not one mention of his wife, who laid in a river just hours before that. and he's playing a clip to boost his ego, to set a narrative that, hey, I'm a good person. My no says so. Not one mention of his wife. I tried to raise her from the dead, but I got to do that later. I need to play for you a clip from my no. She can't even get out of bed, but she signed this document. By the way, Trisha Ross, his mom, is 80. We got a couple of hardworking senior adults building for the kingdom of the Lord. Thank you, no. Thank you for everything you're doing. You can't get out of bed. You probably need help using the restroom. You're probably getting spoon-fed. God bless you, no. Thank you for starting this new ministry. And it gets better, y'all. Go to True Sunlight. Listen to it. There's more. I've reached out to the Secretary of State. I've asked them about these details. And I've asked them that, has a crime been committed? I've not heard back. Again, in all fairness to them, I just reached out to them a few hours ago. So we will give them time. I will make a phone call to their public information officer. But I have reached out to the South Carolina Secretary of State. I have also reached out to Mercy Ministries. Mercy Ministries is a nationwide organization that does a lot of good. I wanted confirmation from them that they have no connection to this Mercy Church Ministries in South Carolina. I'm waiting to hear back from them also. Again, a lot of questions. How is this possible? Who in South Carolina is not paying attention? Who in South Carolina passes this through and says, looks like no has started a ministry. God bless her. Approved. She laid in a river while he stood on that stage. Better splash some water on your face. You didn't look sad enough. I'm going to give y'all an update here on the Susie Skinner situation. As far as Chris Skinner's death, I reached out to a source earlier today. Though no official announcement, and this is unconfirmed, I'm told that the coroner is taking in new information in regards to the death of Chris Skinner. So that's where we're at. It has the attention of the coroner. They are looking into it, and we may have another investigation on our hands, this time in regards to the death of Chris Skinner. I want to be very clear. This is not suggesting wrongdoing in the death. Right now, there is no evidence of any foul play. The evidence is this was a suicide. The text messages is from those close to the situation from that day is this was a suicide. The question is, why was it ruled an accident? That's the investigation. That's the questions. And so we will keep you updated on that. Gavin Fish, if you're not familiar with him, had a great interview yesterday, and I want you to go find him on YouTube. The links are in my descriptions. Gavin Fish has a strangulation expert on his show, and they go into a lot, guys. Gavin Fish really dives deep into a lot of things. I want to play a couple of clips from Gavin Fish interview with this strangulation expert. For those of you who still believe that Mica did this herself, and again, I don't believe it. It's my opinion. If the FBI comes out and says, yeah, she did it, okay, I accept that. It doesn't matter to me because I believe John Paul is still responsible. So, for those of you who still believe that maybe she did do this herself, I want you to take a listen to this.
It's not uncommon for there to be short-term and long-term responses, not just to the trauma that occurred, the emotional trauma, but the progressive physiological damage to the brain. So what some people relate to themselves as victims, survivors themselves, they sometimes will tell you, I remember being very happy-go-lucky, very clear-minded, decisive, confident. But over these days or years of these strangulation events, I find myself having ideas to hurt myself, uncontrollable anxieties, panic attacks, post-traumatic stress. And again, we know there are short-term and long-term responses, and those can be manifested in different ways. But certainly, if in fact she was strangled, it can absolutely lead to destructive behaviors that would be out of her character and not normal as for her, even probably in examining herself, but certainly probably out of characteristics for her friends or family who knew her in a longer period of time. They'd be like, well, that's not like her. But we know that the research shows that there are psychological and emotional changes because of the strangulations.
So, this is all coming off Fitz News article about Mica accusing John Paul Miller of strangling her. That gives you some insight that if this was happening, and again, he goes much into details about the mentality of abusers and strangulation. And unfortunately, I think a lot of you watching this have gone through that. And each time, that abuser holds on just a little bit longer. And so he goes through that, but he says something really interesting this next time around. And he talks about victims who get away from their abusers. Listen to this.
What is the likelihood that they would do that more than once? I guess that's my question.
It's very likely. Unfortunately, it often causes this cascade effect in this increase in frequency and increase in duration. Rarely would you find, at least in my experience, rarely have we found where someone was basically did nothing of the sort and then immediately jumped to some, severe case of strangulation assault. It generally becomes a very progressive and sometimes a slowly progressing form of control and behavior. But generally what I've seen and what other people have related to me that are professionals again in this area is that it's like cracking open the door, and it's like testing the waters. It's like doing it one time, seeing how far things will go, how much control, how much force is needed, And when it is found to be successful, or unfortunately, in some cases, when very abusive people get joy out of it, they continue on that path. It's almost like a fix that can't be, like a drug fix that can't be satisfied. And it's pushed further and further and further. And this is why we say that, particularly in the realm of domestic violence strangulation, it's the number one indicator of future homicide. And we've said this on a previous podcast, but a woman who survives one strangulation, non-fatal strangulation assault, is at an 800% risk of being killed later. And
by strangulation.
I'm gonna rewind that. Did you hear that? Listen again.
Is at an 800% risk of being killed. One indicator of future homicide. And we've said this on a previous podcast, but a woman who survives one strangulation, non-fatal strangulation assault, is at an 800% risk of being killed later. And
by strangulation or by other ways?
Usually by firearm. There's some varying statistics out there, but usually the fatality comes by way of a firearm. About 70 to 77% of the time, the fatality, the homicide, will occur by firearm, but the strangulation events were precursor indicators. And I think the strangulation, or the mindset of someone who uses strangulation, is one that they tend to try to justify their actions. In other words, they can rationalize and they can think about what the outcome of a strangulation act may be. I mean, if you're putting your hands around someone's neck or ligature and you're trying to deprive their body of oxygen, there has to be some type of knowledge that completion of that act could end in death.
Sure.
And when someone utilizes that and death could be the result, well, do they really care? Do they really care about taking someone's life? And so, again, I think it sets them on this path of something that they can perhaps rationalize later. But I always tell our law enforcement professionals and our prosecutors and other people that are involved with victim services that when you deal with someone who utilizes strangulation as a form of assault, you are dealing with someone who has the mindset of a killer.
Everything Mica has said, we've pretty much proven a lot of it. Slash Tires, John Paul sends an email apologizing of such. Nude photos. John Paul sends an email apologizing of such. I've got a clip of John Paul admitting to infidelity. I may show it next week. We'll see. Are we now going to say that Mica was lying about strangulation? %800 increase. Go to Luna Shark, go to True Sunlight Podcasts, listen to their podcasts, go to Gavin Fish on YouTube, watch his interview over there. They dive much deeper into these things. It will blow your mind. Let me mute my mic because this might be important. And I'll break it to you if it is. Kind of important. Not breaking news. One day that phone's going to ring and say, it's happening. I'm open. All right. Go to True Sunlight. Go to Gavin Fish on YouTube. Seriously, take the time to listen to both. You want to. There's so much more. They deserve for y'all to go to their platforms. I'm just giving you a little teaser. Okay. Trying to think if I wanted to share one more thing. You know, I think I'm going to save that. Listen, tomorrow night, Friday, it's date night with the wife. Not going to spend it with you guys, okay? But I do want to end with a feel good. If you've had a baby.
Очень страшно.
If you've had a baby, you know exactly what this is. Oh, he's hungry, Mama. Listen. Thank you guys so much. Hey, to the people that gave us the tip of Mercy Church Ministries, thank you. Every tip is important. Whether you believe it's important or not, it's all important. Thank you so much. Come forward if you have information. Go to the FBI. Love on each other. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you next week.